Hello, I'm back again. I'm really sorry. I need to apologize for my dog, Argos. He was the one who interrupted my reading because he's a little boy and he wants to get his way. So here you go. I'm going to start off again on page 29. You become human. You may discover what it means to be a warrior. Thanks, Sock, for the food for thought and for belly. I bowed grandly. Then I put on my jacket and got ready to leave. I won't be by for a couple of weeks. Finals are coming up and I also have some hard thinking to do. Before he could comment, I waved goodbye and left for home. I lost myself in the semester classes. My hours in the gym were spent in the hardest training I'd ever done. Whenever I stopped pushing myself, my thoughts and feelings began to stir uneasily. I felt the first signs of what was to become a growing sense of alienation from my everyday world. For the first time in my life, I had a choice between two distinct realities. One was crazy and one was sane. But I didn't know which was which, so I committed myself to neither. I couldn't shake a growing sense that maybe, just maybe, Socrates was not so eccentric after all. Perhaps his descriptions of my life had been more accurate than I'd imagined. I began to really see how I acted with people, and what I saw began to disturb me. I was sociable enough on the outside, but I was really only concerned about myself. Bill, one of my best friends, fell from the pommel horse and broke his wrist. Rick learned a full twisting back somersault that he'd been working on for a year. I felt the same emotional response in both cases. Nothing. Under the weight of my growing self-knowledge, my self-image was sinking fast. One night, just before finals, I heard a knock at my door. I was surprised and happy to find Toothpaste Susie, the blonde cheerleader I hadn't seen in weeks. I really realized how lonely I'd been. Aren't you going to invite me in, Danny? Oh, yes. I'm really glad to see you. Sit down. Let me take your coat. Would you like something to eat? Something to drink? She just glazed at me. What is it, Susie? You look tired, Danny, but she reached out and touched my face. There's something. Your eyes look different somehow. What is it? I touched her cheek. Stay with me tonight, Susie. I thought you'd never ask. I brought my toothbrush. The next morning, I turned over to smell Susie's tousled hair, sweet like summer straw, and to feel her soft breath on my pillow. I should feel good, I thought, but my mood was gray like the fog outside. For the next few days, soon I spent a lot of time together. I don't think I was very good company, but Sue's spirit was enough for both of us. Something kept me from telling her about Socrates. He was of another world, a world in which she had no part. How could she understand when I couldn't even fathom what was happening to me? Finals came and went. I did well, but I didn't care. Susie went home for spring vacation, and I was glad to be alone. Spring vacation was soon over, and warm winds blew through the littered streets of Berkeley. I knew that it was time to return to the warrior's world, to the strange little gas station. This time, perhaps more open and more humble than before, but now I was more sure of one thing. If Socrates cut at me with his sharp wit again, I was going to slash right back. So we're on to book 1, The Winds of Change. Chapter 1, Gusts of Magic. It was late evening after my workout and dinner. I fell asleep. When I awoke, it was nearly midnight. I walked slowly through the crisp night air of early spring toward the station. A strong breeze blew from behind me, as if impelling me forward along the campus paths. As I neared the familiar intersection, I slowed down. A light drizzle had begun, chilling the night. In the glow from the warmly lit office, I could see Sock's shape through the misted window, drinking from his mug, and a mixture of anticipation and dread squeezed my lungs and accelerated my heartbeat. I looked down at the pavement as I crossed the street and neared the office door. Standing in the door, I knew this old man. He seemed to be looking right through me. Memories of the Grim Reaper returned. But I sensed that behind his dark eyes lay a great unknown danger. My fear dissipated when he gently said, "It's good that you've returned." He welcomed me into the office. You want to get down, boy? Go ahead. Hold on. Good boy, old man. There you go, Shaky. Sorry. He welcomed me into the office with a wave of his arm. Just as I shook off my shoes and sat down, the station bell clanged. I wiped the mist in the window and looked out to see an old Plymouth limp in with a flat tire. Socrates was page 34, already headed out the door, wearing his army surplus rain poncho. Watching him, I wondered momentarily how he could possibly have frightened me. Then rain clouds darkened the night, bringing back fleeting images of black-hooded death to my dream, changing the pattering of the soft rain into bony fingers, drumming madly on the roof. I moved restlessly on the couch, tired from my intense workouts in the gym. The conference championships were coming up next week, and today had been the last hard workout before the meet. Socrates opened the door to the office. He stood with the door open and said, "Come outside now," then left me. As I rose and put on my shoes, I looked through the mist. Socrates was standing out beyond the pumps, just outside the aura of the station lights. Half shrouded in darkness, he appeared to be wearing a black hood. The office now seemed like a fortress against the night, and against a world outside that was beginning to grate on my nerves like noisy downtown traffic. I was not going out there. Socrates beckoned me again, then again, from out in the darkness. Surrendering to fate, I went outside. As I approached him cautiously, he said, "Listen, can you feel it?" What? Feel. Just then the rain stopped, and the wind seemed to change directions. Strange. A warm wind. The wind, Sock! Yes, the winds. They're changing. It means a turning point for you now. You may not have realized it, neither did I, in fact, but tonight is a critical moment in time for you. You left, but you returned, and now the winds are changing. He looked at me for a moment, then strode back inside. I followed him in and sat down on the familiar couch. Socrates was very still in his soft brown chair, his eyes riveted upon me in a voice strong enough to pierce walls, but light enough to be carried by the March winds. He announced, "There is something I must do now. Don't be afraid." He stood. "Socrates, you're scaring the hell out of me." I'll leave it at that, and we're going on to page 35. Thank you to Argos. You guys were able to have a couple more pages. Have a good evening.